स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय Ramakrishnaaya te namaha. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of Bhagavad Gita. So the live chat is activated. If you have any questions or if you have any doubts, you can type it in the live chat. I'll try to answer them in the end of the today's session or in the next class. So we will start the proper Bhagavad Gita after chanting the meditation verse of Bhagavad Gita. Om वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. Today we are taking up the 59th verse of the second chapter. So it will be displayed on the screen. You can read that and chant after me. Or else if you have your own book, you can follow that too. The 59th verse of the second chapter is Shri Bhagavan Shri Bhagavan The Blessed Lord said, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya parandrishtva nivartate. Now we have chanted the 59th verse. We will go to the word to word meaning of this verse. Vishaya, sense objects. Rasavarjam, accept the fancy or the cravings. Vinivartante, drop off. Dehinaha, of a person. Niraharasya, who is not enjoying them. Asya rasaha api, even this fancy or craving of this person, nivartante, drops off. Drishtva param, after realizing the Supreme or seeing the Supreme. So the sense objects accept the fancy or the craving for the sense object drops off a person who is not enjoying them. If he is away from them, he keeps them away, the sense objects, then that sense objects, that fancy for them, will be away for a short time. But even this fancy, the craving, deep craving which is in his mind, also drops off after realizing the Supreme or knowing the Supreme, after seeing God realization. Even that craving which is within the mind, that also drops off. Now, last week I had discussed about this in a short way. We'll take that up and go to the deeper meaning of this wonderful verse. It's a very special verse. Now let us take up one example, because our senses are 5. So we have to, the sense objects here, the craving for the sense objects has to be seen from each senses we have. So let us take up one first and then go to the other aspect too. When one gives up eating, as in a fast, the desire of the senses, that food, becomes feeble, or even other senses also become feeble. Similarly, when you are sick, in sickness, one loses interest towards the objects of enjoyment. Even if all the objects of enjoyments are around you, when you are sick, when you are in the sick bed or seriously ill, then no sense objects, even if it is nearby, will attract you or will give you joy. Similarly, in sickness, one loses interest towards the objects of enjoyment. These states of dispassion are temporary, for the seed of desire, the craving remains within the mind. Again, when the fast is terminated or the sickness goes away, then the desire returns back and you become again the same person with all the attachment and all the attractions. So now we had seen in the last class why, what is the seed of the desire. So we had gone deeper into that. It is intrinsic nature of the soul for divine, for the divine bliss of God. Because in reality we are of the nature of Parabrahma, Satchit Ananda, infinite bliss, which is infinite knowledge, infinite existence, and infinite Ananda, infinite bliss, absolute. So these sense objects or the joy of the senses is only a tiny fragment of God. Very, very compared to the joy of God, the infinite joy of God, or that which is the Atman which is within our heart or within ourselves, this joy of the senses in this world is very, very small, tiny fragment. Until we get the divine bliss, the soul can never be contented. It goes on searching for higher and higher and higher joy because our real nature is infinite joy. How can it be satiated with ordinary small joys? So it goes on searching for the happiness outside. But that Atman or that infinite joy is within, inside us. And we go on searching outside. So in Kathopanishad there is a statement, Paranchikani vitranat swayambhu tasmat parang pashitina antaratman. So kaschid dhiraha pratyagatmanamakshat avruta chakshuhu amrutatvam ichan. So all Paranchikani, the Lord or that Atman or Paramatma Swarupa sat inside us, but he kept all the indriyas, all the senses outward, outgoing. So the all the indriyas are searching for that joy or that Lord outside in the outer world. But he himself, of whom that infinite joy these senses are searching, is inside. So how can they find him? You go on searching outside in this world, and that is why we get so much of sorrow, we get so much of trouble, we get so much of pain. Why are we suffering so much? So much of strain, so much of stress, everywhere problem, suppression, depression, so many things. Why? Because the infinite joy is within, we are searching outside, which we cannot get. And whatever we get is a tiny fragment of that joy, very, very small fragment of that joy. That's why we are not satisfied with that. We go on craving and craving because that is the reason for why we have so much of desire, so much of greed, and all those things. So that search for happiness will continue. Sadhaka spiritual aspirants may forcibly restrain their senses with their willpower, but such restraint is temporary because it does not extinguish the internal flame of desire. However, when the soul engages in devotion towards God, as we move towards God and get the divine bliss, it experiences the highest state for which it had been craving since infinite lifetimes. So that's why Taittiriya Upanishad statement of Vedas, they tell Raso Vai Saha Rasam He Vayam Labdva Anandi Bhavati. So God is bliss. When the soul attains this God, it becomes satiated in bliss. Then one naturally develops dispassion towards the lower sensual pleasure. So automatically, as Swami Vivekananda tells, since I did not get the nectar water to drink, shall I go and drink the gutter water? So now gutter water is placed and I have been given the nectar, elixir. What would you choose? You would now go for the gutter water. Even the best of the gutter water is given, you will not go for it because you have been given the elixir, amrita. So that is dispassion. When you get the higher joys, automatically the lower joys are given up. So then naturally we develop dispassion towards the lower sensual pleasures. This detachment that comes through devotion is firm and unshakable. Thus, Bhagavad Gita does not teach a dry suppression of desires. Instead, it teaches the beautiful path of sublimation. I had explained about what is that sublimation. So we should not suppress our desires, our craving, but we have to give a higher turn towards God. That is called sublimation. So that is real joy. We are going to get that highest infinite joy. So by directing them towards God. So Ramakrishna Paramahamsa also expresses this principle very elegantly when he said devotion is love for the highest God. Devotion, bhakti is the love for, if we turn the love towards the lower things like men, animal, and all the sense objects, so that becomes the ordinary attachment and the creation of all problem desires. But if you turn the same love towards the highest God, it becomes devotion, and the lowest shall fall away by itself automatically. The all other desires, attachment, everything will fall. So just like yesterday when I was talking about Vivek Chudamani, where Shankaracharya tells that you should give up all these rituals and religious this thing, he didn't tell that give up, but give up the idea of this enjoyment and getting the materialistic joy out of it. But always it should be combined with the idea of the unity with the self, oneness, the Bodha, Atmaikya Bodha, the knowledge of unity with the Atman. That should be kept. So then automatically the lower things will fall away. So that's very important. It have to be learned, and that is the theme of this verse. But we shall go deeper and deeper into the meaning of this verse because it's a really a beautiful verse. How we can overcome all our problems, all our desires. So Lord Krishna has given us the secret. So now let us go to the deeper aspect of this. Thus, now Lord Krishna says there are two types of addictions. What are they? One is sensory addiction and another is mental addiction. Lord Krishna here in Bhagavad Gita tells there are two types of attachment. One is the sensory addiction and the another is mental addiction. Mental addiction is more dangerous and deeper than sensory addiction. Therefore, even if a person gives up the sensory addiction, that is, you may keep it away or you may hide yourself, you may run away to Himalayas and other things to escape from the attraction of the world, or you may put yourself into lockdown or lockup to escape these attractions of the outer world, the attractions. So only you are suppressing or going away from the sensory addictions, sensual addictions. Therefore, even if a person gives up sensory addiction, but still you carry all that cravings, the addiction, the mental addiction in your mind. So wherever you may go to the topmost peak of the Himalayas, but you will carry your mind there. So the addiction of the mind is still there inside you. The craving is still there wherever you go. It lingers on. The mental addiction lingers on for a long time. That is why many people quit certain habit. But maintaining that, giving up that habit is extremely difficult job during that period. You can take the example of alcoholics or the smokers. So during that period, they should be extremely careful when they give up all those things because once he loses control, he violates, then he will get back to the old addiction even in a worst manner. And therefore, Lord Krishna here tells, even after quitting or giving up those desires or the sensory addiction, one has to be very, very careful because the mind has got the weakness, is within that addiction or the craving, that longing is within. So anytime that person can get into that weakness, and therefore Lord Krishna tells Vishaya Vinivartante. The sense objects remain away from the person who has renounced them. The sense objects of addiction, so any sense objects of addiction remains away for a person who has renounced them. How do they remain away from us? Physically away from them, but rasavarjam, the mental fancy for those objects, the longing, the craving, so that imagination that will be always there within the mind. About those sense objects, you will have some sort of imagination, wild imaginations, that craving, the longing will be there in the mind. Now, many people will go to Himalayas and other places, pilgrimages, to renounce everything. The renunciates, they want to give up everything, all the attractions of this world. So they go to Rishikesh, they go to Uttarkashi or some other places of pilgrimages, or even to the top of the Himalayas. And there afterwards, when going there and sitting there for some times and doing some tapasya, then that inner longing and craving comes back, which is within the mind. Wherever you go, you carry the same mind, so it comes back. So they will see people coming there to Himalayas, the mountain climbers, the mountaineers, and they have so many good goggles, special colorful goggles, dress, shoes, and other things. So it will bring back all the designs back. Seeing those people, those householders are the people who are enjoying. They will be doing so many other jumping, skiing, skating. So the people who are enjoying their senses there, so they see them who are visiting that place. So now that craving will come back. Then they will start feeling they have committed a mistake. Why did they give up this world? So many good things were there. We have given up all those things and come here. So we've done a mistake. Just like Ramakrishna's beautiful story. Two friends were there. So one of them told, I'm going to the a place of a bad place, maybe a prostitute's house. The other told, no, I'm not coming there. I want to go to Bhagavata story recital. I want to hear the Bhagavata recital. Then the other person told, you go to the Bhagavata recital, I'll go to that bad place. Now both of them went there, and here the person who is sitting in the bad place, he was feeling very bad, thinking that, oh, my friend is in the Bhagavata recital and he will be enjoying the words of God and other things. But here, this person in the Bhagavata recital, his mind was there in that prostitute's place, thinking that, oh my, what am I doing? I'm here hearing these words of God, and my friend will be enjoying there. So that internal craving, that longing, so within the mind, that is very, very important. Ramakrishna, by giving that beautiful story, he tells about this rasa, the longing, the craving, the internal desire. That's why you might have noticed in the Sita Pragna Lakshana, when Lord Krishna was asked by Arjuna, Sita Pragna Sekabasha Samadhi Stasya Keshava Sita Dihi Kim Prabhasheta Kimasita Vrajeta Kim. At that time, what was the first verse which Krishna started explaining about this Sita Pragna? Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan. Prajahati Yada Kaman, the desires, the intense desire, the lust, the intense desire which are deep inside the mind. Partha, Sarvan Partha Manogatan. So that is that internal craving which Krishna is telling. That craving, you may get away from the world, the attractions and other things, but inside craving has to be given up. That is more important. If you simply lock yourself up, or if you try to control somebody by just locking them up, it will not be useful. Again, the example of Sri Ramakrishna when he was a small child of 8 or 10 years, he gave this beautiful piece of advice to that one of the Laha family. So one Laha, the businessman around Ramakrishna's that Kamarpukur house, when he was a boy of 10. So there was one person who was very much boastful, claiming that nobody has seen the inner apartment of my house. No women are allowed to come out. Nobody can see and talk to the women of my house. So he was boasting, and he was also criticizing the other person, other Laha, his own relative, that he allows Gadadhar to go into the house where all the women folk or the girls are there. So then this boy of 10, Gadadhar, told that Laha, who was boasting, nobody can control or make the girls or people good by just locking them up. So by just locking them or covering them with a cloth or taking away from that sense objects, yes, that is good to some extent, initial stages, but that itself is not enough. Boy of 10, Gadadhar, at that time is giving that beautiful advice. He's telling you can make a person truly good by giving him the training in character, high ideas of God, spiritual ideas. So when you can give him the higher ideas, higher thoughts, thought about God, that will make a person good. That can only make a person moral and ethical. Just by locking a person, just by keeping him away from the sense objects. Yes, it is necessary in the beginning, but that itself will not make a person a good man or a good boy, good child. So if you want to make a person a good boy or a good child or a good girl, then you have to give higher ideas. Yes, the objects of senses like the bad things like smoking, cigarette and other things have to be kept away. But that itself is not enough. But that desire, deep desire within, if it has to go, then you have to give higher ideas. You have to give the thought of God, build up that character. Then that will make a boy or a girl or a student or anybody truly good. That was the advice given by that small boy, Gadadhar Ramakrishna, when he was a child at the age of 10. So likewise, here we should be very careful that we may run away to Himalayas or some other places to escape the attraction of the world, attraction of the senses. But that itself is not enough, because the craving is there within, in the mind. So many people become physical renunciates. They renounce physically, but mentally they are dwelling upon those worldly pleasures. So in another chapter in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna calls them as hypocrites. Externally, they have renounced. They are thinking and they are claiming to the world they are great renunciates. But internally, within the mind, they will be thinking, imagining, dreaming of the worldly things. So, dwelling upon those worldly pleasures. Such people are called hypocrites. Ashada Buddhi by Lord Krishna. So, they will be facing more problems. It is better that a person remains in the world and become a mature person and grows out of it. That is why we say growing out is more important than suppression. Growing out is more important than suppression. Suppression is dangerous. Growing out is very, very important. And therefore, until a person grows out, the rasa, the craving, the longing continues. The rasa means here the fancy, the desire, the craving, the yearning, the urge continues for the sense objects. Only you might have kept the sense objects away. Sense objects are gone physically, that's all. And when will this really go away? Krishna tells, Asya rasaha api nivartante. Even this craving, this longing, this urge for sense pleasures will also go away when it is replaced by, when the mind's vacuum is replaced by spiritual joy, spiritual ideas. That's what Gadadhar Ramakrishna, as boy of 10, told. Until unless you give the higher ideas, ideas of God, the joy of God, the joy of spirituality, then you cannot make a person really moral and ethical or good. So that's what here Krishna is also telling. Asya rasaha api nivartante. Even this craving for sense pleasures will go away when it is replaced, when the mind's vacuum is replaced by spiritual ideas, spiritual ananda, a superior, a higher joy. Our scriptures, Shastras give such joy. So just by reading scriptures, by reading Bhagavata, when the great Parikshit was about to die within 7 days, was given the Bhagavata story by Shukam Harshi. By the end of that hearing of Bhagavata, Parikshit lost the fear of death. He was ready to die. He told, I am not at all afraid. I am so joyful. I am ready to die. So by the reading of Upanishad, reading of Bhagavad Gita, reading of Bhagavata, reading of Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, life of Ramakrishna, Vivekananda's teachings, all those things, great people of the great souls and the saints, what will happen? It gives you the joy, closer joy to God. You'll be going closer and closer to God. So that can easily replace the vacuum, the sense, the sensual, the pleasure, other things can be reduced. It can overcome them. It's a superior joy. The scriptures, study of the scriptures, reading of the scriptures, understanding of the scriptures, manana, shravana, manana. Shravana means hearing of those scriptures, and manana, thinking, meditating on that. It gives more joy. Now, people, when they see the people who have renounced everything, the renunciates, after reading all these books, they will be pitying, shame, they have lost everything. They don't have anything, they don't have TV, they don't read newspaper, they have renounced everything. They sympathize, people sympathize. No movie, no varieties of dresses, they can't even wear colorful dress. So don't they get bored by wearing only one kind of dress? Everybody sympathizes. They don't have any enjoyment. They think that regular worldly pleasures are not there to that renunciate. But the joy, the ananda, that person, the renunciate, gets through reading the scriptures, hearing the scriptures, shravana, manana, nididhyasana, by meditating, that vidya ananda, the ananda of knowledge, it derives from that knowledge, reading and meditating and doing japa and puja, is much, much, much more higher than these petty worldly joys, miserable pleasure. So, but until that spiritual ananda, that higher joy is discovered, the yearning, the urge, that craving still continues. That's why Krishna is telling, Parandrushtva, para darshanam means Atmagnana darshanam, realizing that you are the Atman, that which is infinite joy, absolute. So then automatically after you realize God or see God or realizing your own self, that knowledge, then this craving for sense, pleasure, and all other things, stress, dukkha, depression, stress, everything will go away. Pain, sufferings, everything will go away because they are filled with infinite joy. Then where is the question of suffering and other things? That's why you have to note that when somebody was talking to Ramakrishna and telling that gopis and Radha had lust towards Krishna, Kama, Ramakrishna told, what do you speak? What do you tell? It can't be so. Because even the presence, just if you see Lord Krishna, when the gopis and the Radha, those people, the gopis, Brajavasis, when they saw Lord Krishna, so when Lord Krishna left Vrindavan to Gujarat, Dwarka and other place, he was just he had just completed 11 years old. So when he lived in Vrindavan, it was from the he was carried away as a baby from Mathura to Vrindavan. So from that time up to his 10th year only he lived in Vrindavan. So he was a boy of 6 or 7 or 5 or 8 at the most. So where is the question of lust or karma? But the moment they used to see the Gopis, the Vrajavasis, the Vrindavanavasis, when they used to see just Krishna, they used to get by his presence or nearness, they used to experience that so much of bliss that Ramakrishna tells, suppose the highest joy which you can imagine on this earth, in this worldly plane, if you think as one unit, then the amount of joy when they used to get seeing the Lord, having the vision of the Lord, just nearness of him, just looking at him, the joy they used to get was, Ramakrishna used to tell, multiplied that if that is 1 unit of joy, the highest pleasure on this earth, if it is 1 unit, then multiplied by number of hair follicles, Romakupa on our body, the whole body, how many Romakupas are there? The hair follicles. So that much means infinite joy. If even by seeing Lord Krishna, if you get so much of joy, the Lord, then where is the question of karma? The highest pleasure which you think on this world, Cupid or anything, is menial, a tiny fragment, the smallest petty joy compared to that. So when they are getting that joy, where is a question of lust? Ramakrishna asks. That's why Parandrishtva, when you see, have the vision of the Lord, when you realize God, all these cravings will not be there. It will go away. That's beautifully explained here in this verse. So this gives a beautiful, what do you call that, bharavasa, bharosa, hope that you can overcome all these sense pleasures and sufferings by realizing God. Lord Krishna himself is telling, the Lord himself is telling. And therefore, param drishtva, after discovering that Ananda himself, nivartante, no more craving will be there. That does not mean that the gnani or the realized soul will not be happy. He will be always serious. He will not be happy with the ordinary joys of the world, because that is also a part of the Lord himself. The joys of this world, happiness and other things, he will be very happy. When somebody objected in the West, especially in America, Swamiji, you should be very serious. A religious man, a pastor or a preacher should be serious. You should not be laughing and you should not be jovial or joking. Swami Vivekananda told, what is that? A long face, keeping a serious face, is a sign of dyspepsia, stomach problem, not a sign of religion. A person of religion should be always joyful because he is meditating, he is thinking on God, who is infinite bliss. When you are thinking, when you are meditating, when you are the child of infinite bliss, that is God, how can you be morose and long faced? You should be always joyful. There is no question of crying, there is no question of becoming sorrowful at all. This was the statement of Swami Vivekananda. So, after realizing God, you should not expect that, or a man of religion, a man of God should be very serious and he should be always morose, long faced. No, that's not the idea, because you are meditating on bliss. That's God, the Amrita. Then you will be always joyful, you will be oozing out joy always. So that's the idea. Because when you realize God, then that craving for all these sense pleasures will go away. That's what Lord Krishna is telling. So we have seen from a special perspective. Now we shall go to see the same thing through another perspective, which is very, very beautiful. So we have to study this verse, this beautiful verse, through different angles so that we can understand it and put that to use in our life. So in a practical way, now we will study how we can put this into our life. We can adapt this verse, the teaching of this verse of Lord Krishna, into our life. Now here in this verse, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya parandruštva nivartate. Sense objects fall away from the abstinent person, leaving the longing behind. But even that longing ceases when one realizes the Supreme. Every word here in this verse of Lord Krishna is full of meaning. We can study the human being from the surface. Our study is only on the surface. We always see the human beings from the exterior. So we can study the human being from the surface, but they won't account for his or her activities, successes, and failures. If we can go deep into the human system and find out that and discover what forces are acting there, then we can establish a more stable personality. Just like in modern Western history, there was supposed to be an era of enlightenment up to the beginning of this century based on rationalism of the human mind. We all know the great psychologist. So his teaching was called as Freudianism. This Freudianism, the psychology of Freud, not fraud, Freud. So Freudianism challenged this assumption. What is that enlightenment that Freudianism gave? In 1 second, it can be thrown down by the energy coming from the subconscious and the unconscious. That was a great discovery, a type of depth psychology. Revolutionary as far as the West was concerned. Freud found it full of, that is our mind, subconscious mind, the unconscious mind. Freud tells that he found it was full of sex and violence. That's all. So then Freudianism and other psychology, our modern psychology, went on studying their diseased mind. It was because of the violence and other things, sex, which is in the subconscious mind, which is coming out. So the diseased mind was studied for all the mental imbalances. These are the reason which are in the subconscious mind. When Swami Vivekananda was making a term, maybe in England, about Hindu psychology or Indian psychology, a Western man stood up and told, where was psychology in India, in Hinduism? It is we, the Westerners, who have found out psychology. Where did you have psychology? You know what was the reply of Swami Vivekananda? Swami Vivekananda replied, when our country or Hindu religion, the Sanatana Dharma, had found out its psychology, that is Raj Yoga and other things, the Supreme Upanishad, the great Vedas, when it was at its zenith, the highest peak, when our civilization was at the peak, you people in Europe were forest dwellers. Even during the Roman Empire, England and Germany and other things, the Europeans, at that time they were only tribes fighting each other. So Swami Vivekananda tells, you are eating worms sitting on the trees, painting colors on your faces. You are forest dwellers. Where was psychology at that time? Whenever psychology was at the peak, you were just forest dwellers, eating worms and coloring your faces and sitting on the trees. So even during the time of the Romans, they were just warring tribes there in Europe. Then even before, thousands of years earlier, our Hindu religion and Sanatana Dharma, our Indian culture was its peak. So then the true in-depth study of human mind was thoroughly undertaken. So Swami Vivekananda tells the Western psychology is only of the superfluous nature of the mind. In-depth study is not done. It is just on the upper surface of the mind. It is of the diseased mind, ordinary mind. But the Indian psychology has done the in-depth analysis of the superconscious mind, not only the healthy mind, not only of the healthy mind. The Western psychology is most of the time the diseased mind, to some extent the healthy mind too. But Indian psychology, that is Raj Yoga and our Upanishad and Vedas, have done in-depth analysis of not only the healthy mind but of also the superconscious mind, supermind. So, but a true depth study of the human mind was thoroughly undertaken thousands of years back by the sages of the Upanishads, who discovered the shining truth of ever free and immortal Atman, the self behind the subconscious levels, and behind also the sense bound ego or self. Even behind that ego, they found out this Atman or Paramatma Swarupa, ever free, immortal Atman, the self behind the subconscious levels and even also behind the sense bound ego, which we call that we identify with the individuality or I. The exposition of human life and destiny in the Bhagavad Gita is entirely based on the science of human possibilities of the Upanishads. In the Bhagavad Gita, that depth knowledge of the human psyche is taken into the highest and deepest level. You can see that now. So practical. Lord Krishna is going so deep. These are all the wisdom of the rishis, even earlier to Lord Krishna. And Krishna, Lord Krishna, the Lord Himself, is giving that wonderful in-depth analysis of our mind here. So the human psyche is taken to the highest and deepest level. What is that? Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha. Dehi, an embodied human being, says to oneself, I shall not eat today, and observes a fast. But that person is not truly fasting. Why? Because craving for food is very strong in the mind. Will be always thinking about his stomach and food, will be meditating on that. That's why in the Western concept, the term is called fasting. That is giving up the food. And what is the term in Hindu religion for fasting? It is upavasa. It is not giving up food. Giving up food is very small thing there. Then what is the real thing in upavasa? Upa means near. Vasa means to live by. So what is the meaning of upavasa? Is not just giving up food. Why should I give up food? To control the senses. Only to control the senses. For what? Then you can concentrate the subdued senses and the mind to meditate on God, to think on God, to live with God. So upavasa means to live near God. That is the meaning. So every word is coined in that way in Hinduism, in our religion. So upavasa is living near God. It's not just giving food. So you can see everywhere you can find that beautiful truth. So Lord Krishna is telling here, I shall not eat today, and observes a fast, but that person is not truly fasting, but craving for food is very strong in the mind. Thus, with respect to every sensory organs, not only this is only about the tongue or the food which you are telling, but this is the case, this is with respect to every sensory cravings. By taking away the sense objects from your front doesn't make you a self-controlled person. The person is described as rasavarjam. Rasam is that craving, that longing. That rasam or craving is still there. Can you overcome that craving? Then you are really a man of control, self-control. Then you are wonderful. That is a great statement in the second line here in this verse, in this 59th verse. Rasavarjam rasopyasya in the second line. So that is a great statement in the second line of this 59th verse. Parandrishtva nivartate. Even that craving goes away when the Supreme Atman or God or Ishtadevata is realized. When God, who is the self of all, is realized, even that craving goes away. Vishaya is a technical term in Sanskrit for the sense objects, the pleasurable objects, and Vishayi is the term for the subject, that is, we, the human beings. These two are technical terms in Vedanta. When the cravings go away, so for example, you can, to understand the craving, take a beautiful sweet or take a pickle. Okay, you need not put it on your tongue, just bring it in front of your eyes. You have not tasted it, mind it, you have not tasted or put it into your mouth. Take the pickle, even the word pickle, when I'm telling the pickle and I'm imagining or I'm telling you, bring the pickle at your mouth. Just imagine the pickle in your mouth. Start smelling it. Not even smelling, see it. Then you see, are you feeling the saliva coming to your mouth? Can you do that? So that is the rasa, craving. The mind will automatically, that is associated, and it will start reacting accordingly. But the great Acharya, or the great avatar, one of the greatest distinct acharyas of the Vaishnavism, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had so much of self-control because that craving is gone. He's completely immersed in Lord Krishna, in that Radha Bhava. Completely immersed in Lord Krishna. He's lost his own identity. He's immersed in Krishna. So when he showed that rasa is gone, he put sugar pellets on his tongue. Instead of salivating, the sugar started burning, charring there. Such was the self-control, no saliva. So much of self-control. Because why that rasa is gone? Is immersed in Lord Krishna. Param drushtva nivartate. That comes in the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the greatest of acharyas and avatara. When you put that sugar, instead for an ordinary person, when you put sugar, there will be saliva coming out because of the rasa, the desire to taste that. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so self-controlled. Why? It is not just giving up that sensual objects and other things, giving up that enjoyment, but his mind is immersed in God. He has realized Lord Krishna. His mind was always meditating on Lord Krishna. So no saliva at all. It dried up to such an extent that the sugar started charring there, just like if you put on a oven. So the sugar get charred like that. So much of no saliva at all. It got charred. This example comes in the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So parandrishtva nivartate. It's completely gone. The seed, that longing is burnt off. When Atman is realized, when God, who is the self of all, is realized, even the craving goes away. Vishaya is the technical term in Sanskrit for sense objects, and Vishi is the term for the subject, the human being. These two are technical terms in Vedanta. When the craving goes, then only you are fully free. When the deeper craving goes, then only you are really free. That is what Sthita Prajna Lakshana, the first thing Lord Krishna tells. When the nature of Sthita Prajna is Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan. Kaman, the deep desires, the lust, which are deep in our mind. Prajahati, when that goes away, then that he is a Sthita Prajna. How did it go away? Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmanyeva atmana tushtaha. Because he is finding joy in the Atman. Atmanyeva atmana tushtaha sthita prajnastadochyate. So, when the craving goes, then only you are fully free. Otherwise, craving can create new situation, new kinds of challenges all the time. New temptations can come. But when the craving itself is gone, absolutely free you become. This is the highest type of mind, where the craving has been completely uprooted through the knowledge of one's own nature as the infinite Atman. I think you have heard the story of Lord Shiva's marriage in our Puranas. You can get it. God Shiva, he was doing tapas, austerity. So the great poet Kalidasa, the Sanskrit poet Kalidasa, in his Sanskrit classic Kumara Sambhava. So it is the Himalayan settings where Parvati is eager to marry Lord Shiva, but Shiva is a renunciate, he is doing tapas, is not bothered about the external things. So Parvati wanted to marry Shiva. She comes to Shiva, who was then an ascetic, practicing asceticism, and requests Shiva for permission to serve him. For an ascetic to have a young woman to serve is not a good situation, because it will inflame whatever cravings are there. But Shiva was of different type. No craving, no longing, no rasa. He allowed her. He told her, yes, you are free to serve me. I have nothing to worry. This subject is put into a beautiful verse by the great poet Kalidasa. What does it tell? Pratyartha bhutam api tam samadehe shushrushamanam girisho anumene vikarahetau sati vikriyante yesham nat chetamsi ta eva dhiraha. When Parvati entreated Lord Shiva for permission to serve him, Shiva knew that this may be an obstacle to his spiritual practice. Even though he knew it, he accepted her service. Girisho Anumene. Girisha means Lord Shiva. Anumene means give permission. Then comes Kalidasa, the poet's own commentary on it. Those persons alone are dhiraha, the heroic, the courageous, the intelligent, ta eva dhiraha, who are not afraid of these external attractions, conditions. Because vikara hetau sati vikriyante yesham na chetamsi. Their minds are not agitated when agitating circumstances prevail. So, no amount of attraction, no amount of disturbance in the external world will disturb them because they are immersed. Shiva knows his real nature, that is, he is Shiva. He is immersed in Parabrahman. Where what is Shiva meditating always? On his own real nature, that is Parabrahma Swarupa. What is Vishnu always reclining on the Adishesha and doing that Yoga Nidra, meditating on his true nature, that is Parabrahma Swarupa. So Shiva is not afraid of the external things because he is merged in Parabrahma. Parandrishtva nivartate. It's what Krishna is telling. No cravings will be there. No disturbance can disturb Lord Shiva. So the Kalidasa's own commentary here, the person alone is dhiraha, intelligent, heroic, courageous, who are not afraid of these external disturbances or conditions or attractions because vikara hetu sati vikriyante yesham na chetamsi. Their minds are not agitated when agitating circumstances prevail. So this truth, even the craving goes away. When Atman or Brahman is realized, when God is realized, Shiva knows his own Shiva nature, infinite, immortal. As the you also know another story that the Samudra Mantana which comes in our Purana, the churning of the ocean by the demons and the gods. So you know that story in Purana tells us even when that poison, the worst of the poison, halahala, which would burn the whole universe, nobody could withstand that poison, halahala. So even when that rose, poison rising from the churning of the ocean, he drank it. Lord Shiva drank it. It did him no harm. Nothing could harm him. It would not harm him at all. So nothing can disturb Lord Shiva. No circumstances. Why? Because he is immersed in his own real nature, the Shiva nature, the immortal, infinite, that Shiva nature, Parabrahma Swarupa. So in the modern age, Sri Ramakrishna, our master, says that every human being, everyone, irrespective of any other condition, every human being, you, me, all the human beings has that Shiva nature. Shiva nature is in all the human beings, man, woman, child, grown up, old, educated, uneducated, intelligent, unintelligent, rich or poor, anybody, irrespective of whatever conditions, everyone, Sri Ramakrishna tells, has the Shiva nature. You have that Shiva nature in you. I have that Shiva nature in me. So, Lord, our Ramakrishna tells, service, seva, service of the jivas, because he is having the Shiva nature. For human being, he is worship of Lord Shiva himself. So then, if by serving Lord Shiva, that Shiva nature in the human beings, you can realize the Shiva nature in you. That's why Ramakrishna told, serve Jiva as Shiva. Now Kalidasa mentions that Shiva burnt to ashes the Cupid, Kamadeva, Kama, after which only the marriage between Shiva and Parvati took place. So the marriage of this thing was based on renunciation. No Kama, no Cupid at all. It's so pure. So he burnt the Cupid Kamadeva into ashes and then only he could marry. He married Parvati. There were marriage between Shiva and Parvati took place, and after Parvati herself had undergone, Parvati also had to undergo so much of austerities, penances, severe penances, so much so that she gave up taking food. She was just eating dried leaves. She gave up even eating the dry leaves after so much of severe austerities. So that's why Parna is leaf. So Aparna, she got the name Aparna because she gave up even that eating that. She was doing so much of penance to get Lord Shiva that her mother came once to see her. She couldn't withstand how much of austerity my daughter is performing. So she made the sound, Ma means do not do. Ooh, who is the pain coming out of that mother of Parvati's mother? She was pained to see Parvati doing so much of austerity. She told, Ooh, Ma, don't do. That's why Parvati gets the name Uma. So much of severe austerities before marrying Shiva. So Parvati herself had to undergo severe austerities. This Shiva's acceptance of her is presented by the poet in another great verse, Kalidasa. Adya prabhritya vanatangi tavamsi tavamsi dasaha. Shiva said, from now onwards, O blameless one, I am your slave. You have purchased me through your austerity. When Shiva, who has on his head the crescent moon, said this, Parvati overcame all stress and strain caused by rules of austerity. All strain and pain became recreated anew when they yield their fruits. Because of this spiritual greatness, because of the spiritual greatness of both Shiva and Parvati, Kalidasa had said at the beginning of his book, Shiva and Parvati, I salute as the parents of the universe. Jagataha Pitarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau. So, what a wonderful pedigree humanity has when the myth or the Purana says it as such people as our parents. They are our real parents, Parvati Parameshwarau. So, Jagataha Pitarau Vande. I salute the parents of this universe, Parvati Parameshwarau. Now, this Gita shloka, Vishya Vinivartante Niraharasya Dehinah Rasavarjam Rasopyasya Parandushtva Nivartate. When the Supreme is realized, even the rasa or secret craving of the embodied being goes away. Nothing can tempt such a person. He or she is a dhiraha. That is the language of Vedanta. Then when we struggle like this, we have to be careful about our sensory systems. When we are now performing this austerity to realize, to see the Lord, we also have to be careful. What is that? The senses are very, very powerful. That is the theme of the next verse. So we will just chant that verse, the next verse, the 60th verse, and see the simple meaning, and then we will study that 60th verse in the next class. So we shall now chant that. It will be displayed on the screen. Yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. Now we shall chant it, the 60th verse of the second chapter. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Blessed Lord said to Arjuna, Yatato hyapi kaunteya Yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. The simple meaning is the turbulent senses. At the end of this explanation of the verse, the 59th verse, we told that when we struggle to realize God, when we want to overcome the attraction of the sense objects and control the senses, we have to be very careful about our sensory systems. They are very powerful. So Lord Krishna is bringing up this next verse. So the turbulent senses, O Arjuna, O son of Kunti, do violently snatch away the mind of even a wise man who is striving after perfection. I'll read it again, the simple verse, simple meaning. The turbulent senses, O son of Kunti, that is Arjuna, can violently snatch away the mind of even a wise man who is striving after perfection. So Krishna wants the yatis or the person who are struggling to realize God, control their senses. The senses are very strong. They can even snatch away violently the minds of even the strongest of persons. So you should be very careful. You should not be careless. You should be very careful. That is the idea. Krishna is warning us so that we'll be always alert. Ramakrishna used to always tell sadhu, savdhan, attention, or enunciate. Always be attentive. Don't be slack. Don't relax. Always be in the state of attention. Savdhan, sadhu, savdhan. So we will have a deeper study of this verse in the next class. So the next class will be based on the discussion on verse number 60 of the second chapter. So as usual, before closing, I want to tell you that Ganesh Chaturthi is fast approaching. That Saturday 22nd, we are going to celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi. So we are planning to, like just Krishna Janmashtami was for 7 or 8 days, but this will be only for 1 day. So there will be prayer, beginning prayer, the Shanti mantras, then puja. Puja is the speciality. We are planning of uh, doing eco-friendly Ganapati. But to make the image, the idea behind that is the Lord, who is formless, attributeless, takes the form of Ganesha. He comes from the formless and he gets a form. He comes to our house, receives our worship. Then again he goes to formless. So we have to make it with clay, which is formless, worship it, and then immerse in water, which is again formless. So water is also formless, going back to formless. That's the idea. So here, uh, the eco-friendly way of making Ganapati and worshipping is you can have your own images or photo of Ganesha and worship it on the day of that particular puja. But we will try to make, we'll be sending the videos of making Ganesha either with clay or wheat flour. So the wheat flour will be there in everybody's house. If it is difficult for you to get clay, good clay to prepare Ganesha, wheat flour. So we'll be also showing you the video how to prepare Ganesha through wheat flour or clay, whatever it is easy for you. Then we will worship that and immerse in water so that we are also sending back Lord to the formless, and we will place the Lord in our heart and meditate all through the year until next Ganesh Puja. So extra thing which you need during Ganesh Puja is, other than what we had given in the Krishna Janmashtami, we have also, I think, put the list before our Gita class. The extra thing which we require is Durva grass. So 21 Durva grass can be kept on the head of Lord Ganesha, which he likes very much, and also some more Durva grass for the puja purpose. And other than that, you'll be, if it is possible, you can also keep 1 teaspoon of different panchamrita, milk, then curds, then honey, then ghee, that's clarified butter, and sugar. Panchamrita snan also. So Bilva Patra, if it's available also, you can keep all these articles you can have for the puja. If you don't have, because of the pandemic and other restrictions, lockdown, you can just replace with rice or water or even vermilion, kumkum, sindu. You can worship, give it as an offering. Or even if you don't have these things, you can do it, the mental worship. You can offer everything mentally, feeling that you are giving everything objects of worship to the Lord. So we will come to your houses through this connection of the WhatsApp or whatever, the internet, and we will perform the worship. We will be telling the mantras, and you will be performing everything. Puja to Lord Ganesha. After that, there will be talk by Sharda Prabhanandaji Maharaj. Then talk. I'll be explaining about various aspects of Lord Ganesha. Then there will be bhajans, arati to Lord Ganesha. So all are welcome to this program on 22nd. It will be from South African time, 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, or even a little more than that. So all are welcome. So then I think there is one question. Can I see the question? There is one question in the live chat. If I can see the question. Yeah. Will all who are born in Kashi will get liberated, Maharaj? Uh, According to the words of Mother Sharda Devi and our scriptures and uh, Ramakrishna and Swami Brahmanandaji and other great people, not all who are born in Kashi will get liberation, but people who die in Kashi. I may not be born in Kashi. If I go and die in Kashi, then I will get liberation. Even the worst of the sinners, if he goes to Kashi and gives up his body in Kashi, he will get liberation. So that is the statement of the scriptures. Not all the people who are born in Kashi, but people who are born in Kashi are really great. But they may go out to some other place to the work and settle down somewhere else and die there. Then they may not get. They will get liberation even if they die out of Kashi, taking the name of the Lord and realize God, do tapasya. Then wherever you die, you will get. Even if I die out of coronavirus, even if I die out in a gutter, if I have realized God, I am taking the name of the Lord and die, not only in Kashi, wherever I am, even if I die in a war or in coronavirus or in the hospital, I'll get liberation. So that's very important. So the scriptures tells those who die in Kashi, give up the body in Kashi, get liberation. I think there was only one question in the live chat, so I've answered it. We will end the session with the meditation on Bhagavad Gita. Om Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkrupatamaham Vande Paramanandamadhavam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.